Dodge Darts, Plymouth Valiants, and workaday pickups was an engine that didn't scream but rather whispered a different kind of legacy, the Mopar 225 Slant Six. When Chrysler engineers unveiled the Slant Six in 1960, people didn't know what to think. The engine was canted 30 degrees to the right, giving it a distinctive slant. It looked unusual, even awkward, compared to upright inline-six competitors from Ford and Chevy. But there was method to the madness. By slanting the block, Chrysler could fit a longer intake manifold with smoother bends, helping air and fuel mix more evenly. That design meant better efficiency, fewer hot spots, and surprisingly strong torque for a six-cylinder. The 225 cubic inch version, introduced in 1960, was the big brother of the smaller 170 and 198 Slant Sixes. With a bore and stroke that gave it a long arm, torque-rich personality, the 225 became the workhorse of Chrysler's lineup. Rated at about 145 horsepower in stock trim, it wasn't going to win any drag races. But owners quickly realized this thing refused to die. Taxi fleets, delivery trucks, and budget-minded families began racking up insane mileage with virtually no breakdowns. Farmers ran them in pickups, cabbies drove them until the odometer rolled over twice, and teenagers abused them without mercy. Time and again, the Slant Six fired up, idled smooth, and kept going. It wasn't flashy, but it was bulletproof. And soon, the stories started circulating, stories that gave the 225 Slant Six its legendary reputation. By the late 1960s, the Slant Six had already earned nicknames like the Leaning Tower of Power. Mechanics respected it because it was nearly impossible to kill. The thick cast-iron block, 7 main bearings, and understressed internals gave it a toughness that other six-cylinders just couldn't match. Owners loved to brag about how badly they treated their Slant Six and how it simply refused to quit. There are countless true tales, but a few stand out as shocking examples of what this little engine could take. One famous Chrysler test involved running a Slant Six at wide-open throttle for 200 hours straight on a dynamometer. Not only did it survive, but the engine showed minimal wear afterward. Another story tells of a farmer who drove his Dodge pickup for weeks with no oil in the crankcase. The engine clattered and smoked, but it kept running until he finally tore it down, and even then, with new bearings, it was back on the road. Junkyard legends are everywhere. Mechanics would toss a used Slant Six into a project car without even rebuilding it, confident it would fire up. Teenagers ran them low on coolant, high on RPMs, and even half-submerged in mud. Time after time, the motor coughed, sputtered, and then settled into that trademark smooth idle. Perhaps the most shocking stories involve neglect. A common refrain goes something like, "I parked my old Dart behind the barn for 10 years, dropped in a fresh battery, and the Slant Six fired right up." Try that with a high-strung V8, and you're almost guaranteed a seized block. But not the 225, it seemed designed to forgive abuse. What made it so tough? The secret lay in Chrysler's conservative engineering. The engine wasn't pushed for high horsepower, which meant all its components were working well within their limits. The long stroke provided stump-pulling torque at low RPMs, so you never had to thrash it. The cast-iron block was so heavy it bordered on overkill. And the simple, reliable Carter one-barrel carburetor meant there was little to go wrong. This combination of design choices turned the Slant Six into a legend. Even as Chrysler moved on to fancier engines, the reputation of the 225 only grew. It became the blue-collar hero of the Mopar lineup, quietly powering America through decades of work and travel. By the time Chrysler finally retired the Slant Six in the late 1980s, it had powered millions of vehicles over nearly 3 decades. From compact sedans to half-ton pickups, the 225 had proven itself in every role imaginable. It wasn't fast, but it was faithful. Today, car enthusiasts look back at the Slant Six with a kind of reverence usually reserved for big-block muscle engines. Mopar clubs still celebrate it at shows. You'll see old Darts and Valiants with the hood open, owners proudly showing off that tilted iron block, polished air cleaner, and simple carb setup. What's remarkable is how many are still running on their original internals after 40 or 50 years. In a modern world obsessed with horsepower numbers and turbocharged speed, the Slant Six stands as a reminder that durability is its own kind of performance. Sure, a Hemi might win at the drag strip, but how many of those muscle cars could run 500,000 miles on the same block? The Slant Six could, and did. Its influence is still felt today. Chrysler engineers who worked on the Slant Six carried forward the lessons of overbuilt reliability into later engines. Owners who grew up with the Slant Six under the hood often say it shaped their trust in Mopar vehicles for life. And mechanics who cut their teeth on its simple design still smile when they see one come into the shop. The shocking truth behind the Mopar 225 Slant Six isn't just that it was reliable, it's that it redefined what reliability meant. It showed the world that an engine didn't have to be big or powerful to be great. Sometimes greatness is measured in decades, not seconds. Even now, when someone asks, what's the most bulletproof engine ever made, you'll hear gearheads argue for the Chevy 350 or the Ford 300 inline-six. But sooner or later, someone will grin and say, don't forget the Slant Six. And when they do, everyone nods, because they know the legend. The 225 Slant Six wasn't just an engine. It was an iron-willed survivor, a piece of working-class history, and one of Mopar's greatest unsung hero.